Hello, hello. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through running metaphors. This is the week. I've been thinking and talking about AwesomeCon here since I found out that they have an author's lane within the artist alley, and that this is specifically targeted towards self-published authors. Now, mind you, I only knew about this edition because one of the people who spoke to me randomly at Balticon last May, happened to mention it. And since then, I've had this idea of I want to be a vendor at AwesomeCon. I've been going to AwesomeCon for years, and admittedly, I missed the past few. I don't think I've gone since COVID times because there are a lot of people in a single room in a big, massive hallway. So I had no idea that they expanded what they were offering within Artist Alley. I perused Artist Alley on my own, and my impression, again, years ago before they added author lane to it, was that was mostly crafts or specifically comic books to go along with the theme of AwesomeCon, which is kind of a pop culture fest. I never thought I'd even be a vendor at a conference that's hosted Timothy Zahn before, and he's shown up multiple times. Now, admittedly, he had his own private booth, and there were photo ops and signings set up. My table won't have anything that robust or popular. Still, I can't wait to experience the con from the other side of the table, and I'll be sure to tell you exactly how things go next week. My next episode will be a recap of how everything went for me during AwesomeCon. That's awesome. Now, for now, I'm talking about something I hadn't explicitly done before as a vendor, which is taxes. Before I mention anything else, I need to state that I am in no way a registered accountant, lawyer, or anything applicable to be giving tax advice, specifically in this case for United States tax processes, and more specifically, the DC taxes that are going to be applied to myself as a vendor. Now, this is the process I've gone through and will go through. I'm not professional, so don't think anything I say here should be taken as legal advice or CPA advice or whatever you want to do. Basically, I'm going to talk through my process, but don't think that anything I say is law. I also may have done everything wrong, in which case I'll need to scramble to pay the money I owe correctly before I'm fined. And I did read that part very well because so after the event is over, I have until the 20th of the following month to file my taxes. I'm going for this event. I'm going to try and file them for the 20th of this month, which means I should only have a week. But I think that's enough time, assuming everything goes through and I can document it all well enough. Either way, following that 20th cutoff date, my understanding is that it is a $50 fine per day, up to like $2,500, and then if I do things really wrong, it could be up to a $10,000 fine. So I really want to do everything line by line, strictly by the book, and hopefully it'll all work out. With out of the way, I've documented my taxes and paid them within my own records. That's how I do my own normal shopkeeping because I don't technically have my writing as a business yet. Except that in order to participate in AwesomeCon, unlike with Balticon, unlike when I show up at libraries, whatever, I need to set up my account with the Washington, D.C. Tax Authority. There are multiple ways of doing this. So when you all take part in your own conferences, either in the US or internationally, be sure to read all the directions. And the event organizers should help you out a lot in that. For this specifically with AwesomeCon, there's an email from the organizers with some general information, and they provided a packet with a whole lot more details, which included explicit instructions on how to set up a special event for tax purposes. However, the information they provided was mostly a direct link to the DC Tax webpage and the relevant details like the event ID, name, and start date. Well, the DC Tax webpage leaves something to be desired. There is too much information and lots of wrong ways to set up the accounts. I'm going to show you a couple of the PDFs that go through. Here we go. So this right here There's an online document that shows how to register for the special event, which is what I was trying to do, the FR 800 SE. And I'm going to go through this really quickly. I'm not going to really explain anything, but I'm just going to show you there is a lot of information on the page. And while they do try and highlight the step 1A, step 2, they have like everything in within a box, and they try and highlight exactly how things should look. And moving right along, it's 1 flows to 2 to 3 to whatever, and this is where you submit, and then there's the instructions for exactly what to go through. Well, when I tried to go through this, it didn't look like that. So somewhere along the way, there were issues on my side. Most likely they were all on my problems, on my fault, but there were issues nonetheless. So the online guides that the tax authority explicitly put out to register correctly and to fill everything out, they didn't quite work for me. Now I did fall back on. I'll get into exactly what I did, because I sort of fell back onto an umbrella situation in which I got a sales and use account set up instead of the single special event, which is kind of the better way of doing it, or the ideal way. But mine is more encompassing, so I'll get into all that details. Anyways, the organizers also gave us this direct quote: vendors who are already registered for a sales and use account, which is what I ultimately end up doing, should file sales made at the event with their sales and use tax return form FR 800. Vendors who are not already registered with the OTR, which is the name of the DC tax service, and do not plan on making other sales in the district should register for the special event tax account with form FR 800 SC. And that's what I vaguely showed there with registering. And it goes on with more specifics, like paying by the 20th of the month following the event. So even though this event is over on the 10th, I won't have to pay this month by the 20th. It's April 20th when I'll have to all the details. Either way, essentially what this means is that there were 2 routes I could take. The first is if I only plan to attend this one event in DC, which is ultimately what happens. I know of AwesomeCon. I don't have any plans to have or to be another vendor, to be a vendor at another DC event. So in theory, what I should have done is to take the path and register as a special event. All the other events I have planned are outside DC. There's Balticon, and the tax rules are different. Another option is to register as a sale and use account if I intend to be a merchant at multiple events. The documentation to do either is complicated, and there were many different resources that sent me all over and then back around in circles again. In trying to submit the form, like I showed you, and trying to go through the steps that I just showed, and submit the special event registration just for AwesomeCon, I keep being redirected to the login page, which required me to have an account in order to continue. Obviously, I didn't. And everything I tried at this point sent me back to that login screen. So therefore, I needed to set up the initial steps to register myself with a sales and use account. And eventually that got me to the login account. As I'm not a DC resident, Washington, DC, and a DC address is required, I use the address of the event, which is what you're supposed to do if you're signed up for the special event. So I kind of combined the 2 steps of what I was supposed to do, in that when you register for a special event, you use the address of the event itself along with the event ID and a couple of other details that are given. So what I did was I signed up for a sales and use tax, and then used the address of the place I'm going to be at. Now I waited a week to get a letter in the mail with the details allowing me to finally register and create a login account. Meanwhile, time marched on, so I was getting really nervous about having all this lined up for AwesomeCon. Ironically, once I fully register my account with the sales and use account, I found an online resource by OTR, which I haven't been able to find since, which would have allowed me to register for the account without having a login within the Washington DC tax service. So the entire process that I went through to register as a sales and use account, I might not have needed to do, except that I couldn't find the documentation that would have allowed me to do it correctly. And yeah, in other words, I might have done this wrong for myself, but I circled back around so badly that became kind of right. It's not the best way for me, but I should be compliant in how I pay my taxes that are owed following AwesomeCon. Another way of thinking about this is I have a more robust account to fall back on if the special event account doesn't work, because I did in fact also sign up for the special event using the steps that were shown to me, and I haven't gotten any traction on that. So as long as all of my taxes go to the sales and use account, which I have set up, there won't be any issues, I think. Now, at the time of recording this, I messaged the help resource at OTR and I'm awaiting response to find out if I messed everything up. Hopefully, this video won't be used against me come tax season in 2025. And since it's March, I'm already in the middle of tax season for 2024, which is weird to say. So it's technically it's tax season for 2023, even though it takes place in 2024. That's how things work. But yeah, I've been compiling everything from the past year, from last year, not including this year. And that's what I'm going through in general for life. So I have my sales and use account. Once I have the registered account, I actually set up a special event account within it. Although I couldn't assign the event ID or anything relevant to that account. So I'm almost certain that that method is wrong. I registered for a special event, although nothing has come in the mail for that, like what it did with the sales and use account that I had set up. So I think that might have just gotten lost. All in all, taxes are extremely complicated. I don't know if I did everything right, but I did enough so that I had the avenues to pay through multiple methods following AwesomeCon. And I'm fairly certain that the sales and use account that I have set up is perfectly fine. So I'll do a roundup next week of everything that went on. If I have an answer from OTR or if I find out on site that I messed up, because I'll be talking to people in the booths next to me and around me. So if I find out whether or not I messed up my taxes, I'll let you all know. But this will likely not be realized until the summer after I pay the taxes I owe, or honestly, even next year when I go through this exact same tax process. And let me see if anybody in the chat is a tax expert or has been paying attention to what they should do. So let's see here. Lots of fun debates between the UK and US taxes. Yeah, so sorry, I'm checking the comments. Lots of debates about taxes. Yeah, I had a fun conversation with Richard earlier today where I was describing how taxes work, specifically the tax process that I'm going through, where it takes taxes out of every paycheck, but then at the end of the year, you have to compile them all together and you have to pay for, taxes on your home and taxes from life, taxes from investments, taxes from all over the place, and then just sort of compile it all into one form that you send to the IRS with either money that you owe or money that they owe you. It's a big whole mess, and part of the problem is that the government, in theory, knows exactly how much we owe. So there's a lot of guesswork on our part whether or not we're doing it correctly, but they know exactly how much we owe. So I don't know. It's very complicated. There's a lot of tax laws that I'm not aware of, which could help me owe less. And there's a lot of, I don't want to say ways to get around paying taxes, but there are definitely legal ways to. It's basically like contributing more to your 401k, your investments, so that you get put into a lower tax bracket. It's a whole thing. It's very complicated. I am not an expert. I do not know. I know that I should not. I know enough to say nothing in this video, but essentially it amounts to putting more money away so that you don't, on paper, make as much, although it gets put into your investments through your work and all these other places, so that way you can get it. Basically, it's pre-tax versus post-tax that gets taken out of your paycheck, and there's a whole mess of laws that are associated with that. I want to be a vendor. I want to be a vendor at AwesomeCon is an awesome first line for the Pokemon theme song. Yes, thank you. If I knew how to sing, I would go for that. Aw, Richard, you would do a photo op with me. Thank you. And of course, my wife is biased. RC Scott, thank you for joining in. And Yes. Thank you, Richard, for the alerts that this is not official finance advice. There's a lot of taxation is theft comments in the chat. So thank you, you anarchists. Go, 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 I guess. Yep. And yeah, Rain to Right is not an LLC. I got to work on that. Yeah, that's the maximum fine. I think that's if I do everything wrong. I think that if there's a delay in payments, but assuming I do everything right, the maximum is $2,500. But again, that's all assuming that I don't pay anything by April 20th, in which case I should be fine because I have every intention of paying everything that's owed. I'll track it all and I will be good. But yeah, Al Capone he couldn't be brought up on, racketeering or anything like that. And it was ultimately the IRS that got one of the most notorious mobsters in US history. And yep, so I'm going through here. Yeah. I do technically have unlimited pay time off. There are absolutely rules on how much I can take at a single time, as well as coordinating with my teams to not be gone. Um, in my experience, government employees absolutely have the most time off because there are multiple, like, 3-week bursts where there is just no one. So the end of the year, and then I think around like September, there is when I was contracted out for government work, which I will never do again. I mean, I very strongly asked that I never be my employers and everything that I never be a contractor with government because there's a lot of bureaucracy to deal with and issues like what I'm about to explain, where we were required to get a lot of work done by the end of the year. So like December, there is a massive backlog of work that needs to be done. However, the client is gone for the month of December. So we had to get a lot of work done with no guidance whatsoever. And then when they come back in January, they complain that everything is wrong. So it is a huge, huge stressful moment, both towards the end of the year and then immediately in January. So yeah. Uh, Sorry, I got off on a rant. Yeah. So now that I'm in a different company and I have unlimited pay time off, I am actually taking less time off than I did when I was sort of earning hours off, if that makes any sense. So before it was like I would earn X number of hours for every 2-week paycheck period that I worked. Now that I technically have unlimited pay time off, I am working a lot more. Also, we have fewer holidays at this company than we did at my last company, which is very frustrating. Although, again, yeah, unlimited like Adriana said, my wife, unlimited paid time off is often a scam. There are people who definitely take the full time off, but there are also people who work a lot harder, a lot more. Um, it is very frequent that people are working. It's like allocations or whatever. So we don't need to go into it. It's a whole big thing, but you're working over 100% of your time, which means that you're putting in like 50, 60-hour weeks on a regular basis. So yeah. But yeah, UK time off is significantly better than than the US. I will definitely say that. Um, all right, so I'm almost catching up. Oh no, wow, I'm way behind. Jordan, thank you for joining me. Yeah, so Jordan, you are there. I was just talking about taxes and what I had to go through to register a sales and use account within DC for an upcoming to be an upcoming vendor at AwesomeCon. Basically, the best guidance is to follow the instructions to the dot and to hope that you don't end up in a circle of getting the wrong instructions that tell you to do things which you can't do because you need an account, but in order to register, you need an account, and in order to get an account, you need to register. It was a huge cycle. Yeah, hire an accountant. Sure, Richard, I'll get right on that with all the extra money I can toss around. I mean, you are my publicist, and you are hired for the expensive price of free. So, cool. Yes, thank you. So yeah, there's some differences between investments where the tax is paid is on the Roth, and then tax deferred is traditional. Oh boy. But again, none of us are tax experts, so I really shouldn't be talking it. Yes, I did have to work on President's Day. I get off Martin Luther King Day in March, and then I think my official next holiday is Memorial Day. Everything in between. No, actually, I didn't get off on Martin Luther King Day. I had to take one of my days. So yeah, they're the actual holidays that they give us are few and far between. But again, in theory, it's unlimited time off, so whatever. Cool. All right. Well, I'm all caught up. Nobody has any groundbreaking information about taxes that would save me literally thousands of dollars. Um, hey. President's Day is not a joke. That's when you can get great discounts for cars. And with that, I will start wrapping things up and bring us in for landing. So, I am Ben Pick. Thank you for joining me in Running to Right. Let me know in those comments whether you have had tax complications like what I just described going through while being a vendor at a conference, or even in having your own LLC to set up for your writing business. I post my running and writing progress on Instagram and Twitter as Writing to Write, so be sure to follow me and join in with your own thoughts. You can sign up for my monthly newsletter for fun details and writerly comments. I just sent out my newsletter yesterday, so the next edition may have an update and an answer to whether I set the tax accounts correctly, because they'll be coming out on April 3rd. And hopefully, I'll have already fully paid off whatever taxes I owe following this weekend based on the sales that I'm able to make. We'll see. I am very positive. I have 2 big boxes of books. There's enough time where technically, if I sell everything, I will be able to order more books between now and, let me think, Kensington Row Bookshop is the next con that I'm going through. And then the one after that is Balticon. So, see you next time. Until then, if you're at AwesomeCon, find me in Author's Lane. I should have been smart and I should have gotten my number so you would know exactly what table I'm at to look for. But Author's Lane, I have no idea how big it is, how many tables there are, but I will be there. Ben Pick, Writing to Write. Also, don't forget that at the end of March, this month, on March 30th at noon Eastern Time, I'll be hosting a book launch party for Saving the Lost, the third in my Into the Void series. It's a big month for me. I hope to see you all both at AwesomeCon and at my book launch party, because both will be some fun parties. And no, Richard, I'm not going to prison. Thank you. Richard, you are terrible. Yeah. Oh boy. I was editing something this afternoon after work, and there was definitely a phrase like that coming in book 3. And I thought of you, Richard, because I know that you were going to either highlight your physical copy or just point and laugh at it and then text me exactly what you read from book 3. So, and yes, Richard, you can, to everyone out there, thank you, Richard. Also the best free publicist out there. You can pre-order Saving the Lost now. Now, again, this is only the ebook copy. You'll have to wait until March 30th to pre-order or to order the physical copies. So if you want to wait, don't worry about it. I won't feel hurt by, you want to get physical copy, go for it. But just know that it'll take time to produce that book. And March shouldn't be too bad. There were definitely bad delays in December. But either way, my book is coming out on March 30th. I'm going to AwesomeCon this weekend, and I will see you on the other side. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful